the first punch never landed. It stopped in the air when the lights went out. The dorm in Rikers Island froze in a half-second of shock. A siren wailed. Metal scraped. Someone yelled, "Back to your bunks," but the voice sounded small in the dark. A red glow flooded the room, and everything turned into shadows, beds, bodies, a rolling cart stuck in the doorway. An officer's radio crackled with words nobody could understand. Somewhere, a man sobbed once, hard, like he'd been holding it in all day. Then the power blinked back on, bright and cold, and everyone saw the same thing at once, a young inmate standing on a bed frame, arms open like a diver, ready to jump into a crowd that looked ready to catch him, or crush him. "Don't do it," a voice called from the gate. The young man stared, eyes wide, chest tight. No one moved. Not the officers. Not the men on the floor. The air itself held still, and then the ceiling speaker clicked, "All units, immediate lockdown." The room inhaled. The jump began. That was the breaking point. "Now, let's go back to the start of the day." Morning came to Rikers like it always did, buzzers, keys, carts, doors. The sky over the East River was pale and gray, and the island smelled like rain and metal. Buses lined up by the intake building. Officers in blue uniforms rubbed their eyes. Inmates in orange stood in lines that felt too long. Everything moved, slowly, carefully, like a machine that needed oil and never got it. Our guide through this day is Maya Lee, a city reporter with a cheap notebook and a tired pen. She came to learn how people survive in New York's most famous jail, both the inmates who wait for their court dates and the officers who try to keep the peace. Maya had read the public reports: too many people, too few staff, broken lights, broken locks, broken trust. She had watched documentaries, listened to officers who said, "We're drowning," and men who said, "We feel invisible." She wanted to see, not just hear. In the morning dorm, Maya met Officer Rivera, who had a calm voice and a careful way of walking. "You don't rush," he told her. "You move like time is your friend, even if it's not." He pointed to the board with the unit rules in plain words: keep your area clean, follow orders, no threats, no touching anyone else's stuff. Simple, he said. But simple is hard when everybody's scared. He nodded toward a young man making his bed with tight corners. "That's Jamal," Rivera said. 19. First time in. He keeps to himself. Counting days. Jamal's hands shook a little as he tucked the blanket. He looked like a kid who should be in a gym, not a jail. On the next bunk sat an older man named Carlos, who had a soft face and a notebook filled with tiny writing. He pointed to a line that read, "Breathe in 4. Hold 4. Breathe out 4. This is my plan," Carlos said. "This is how I stay here without falling apart." Midday was a low moment, a quiet one. Men lined up for trays and shuffled back to their bunks. The food was warm but bland. Plastic forks scraped plastic plates. Someone laughed at a joke about the bread. For 15 minutes, it almost felt like a lunchroom anywhere, almost. Because even in the calm, you could feel the fear, like a hum in the walls. Phones on the wall rang with calls that never connected. A TV in a metal cage showed a game with no sound. One man stared at the screen like he could climb inside and run away. "People think Rikers is wild every minute," Rivera said. "Truth? It's a lot of waiting. Waiting makes people nervous. Nervous makes people dumb. Dumb makes danger." In the afternoon, Maya sat in a small room with a counselor named Denise, who had a gentle voice and a stack of forms. "We try to catch the ones who are slipping," Denise said. "Sleep is bad here. Fear is worse. You can't fight fear with a form, but you try." She handed Maya a flyer for a meditation group. Sometimes 5 minutes of quiet helps a person hold on for the next 5 minutes. The highs came fast after that. A shout in the hallway. 2 men arguing over whose shoes sat under which bed. The kind of small thing that turns big when you live inside a box. Rivera stepped between them, palms up, steady. "You keep your space, he keeps his," he said. 1 breath. 2. 3. Jamal stood nearby, eyes darting, palms sweating, watching like a new swimmer mapping the waves. The argument dipped. A low again. Men sat back down. There was relief in the air, thin as paper. Near dinner, a storm rolled in over the East River. The windows went dark. The lights flickered once, twice. Generator test, Rivera said, but he didn't sound sure. The radios hissed. The TV froze. A cart will squeak like a small animal. Maya wrote in her notebook, "It is not the noise that scares them. It is the idea that help might not come fast enough." And then, at 6:12 p.m. the high, no, the peak. Two men bumped shoulders by the phones. The bump turned to a shove. A third man stepped in. A fourth yelled, "Leave it." The room leaned forward, the way a crowd leans at the edge of a cliff. Jamal stood on his bed, not to fight but to get away, because the floor felt like a tide, and he didn't want to be swept in. His foot slid on the frame. He spread his arms to catch balance. To the officers at the gate, it looked like he was about to jump into a sea of bodies. The power cut, darkness swallowed the dorm. Only a red strip light burned along the floor like a line of fire. In the dark, someone whi spurred, "Don't move." The whisper was Jamal's. But fear is louder than words. A tray clattered. A bunk rattled. A body brushed another body, and the room mistook it for a blow. "Back to your bunks." Rivera called, but his voice hit the ceiling and slid down a wall. The radio sputtered. The lock on the gate clicked but didn't open. Maya felt for the cinderblock behind her and kept still. She could hear breathing, fast, everywhere. The red strip reflected in the shine of the floor, shaking like a heart. The light snapped back. Time moved again. On his bed frame, Jamal wobbled, arms open, eyes scared and hard at the same time. He looked at Rivera. He looked at the crowd. He looked at Maya, just for a second, as if to ask, "Which way is safe? Don't do it." Rivera called. His hand hovered over his radio. Other officers were coming, but doors and keys take time. Time stretches in a crisis. Every second feels like 3 across the dorm. Carlos stood, slow, palms out. "Hey," he said to nobody and everybody, voice low and clear, "count with me." He breathed in 4, held 4, breathed out 4. The old man's calm was a tiny raft in a rough sea. Jamal bent his knees, lockdown hit the speaker, the jump began, and here is the part that tells you what Rikers does to people. At the exact same moment, 3 different hands reached toward Jamal, one from Rivera, one from an inmate right below, and one from a second officer arriving at the gate. All 3 were reaching not to grab but to steady. Fear makes you guard yourself. Survival makes you catch someone else. The dorm door banged. More officers poured in. The sound doubled, then tripled, "Bunks! Bunks! Bunks!" And the dorm broke into pieces, men moving back, officers moving forward, radios snapping, metal screaming. Somewhere, that rolling cart finally tipped, and trays skidded like slow fish. Maya kept writing even th. Oof, her hand shook. When a place is always tense, saving someone becomes the only kind of control that makes sense. Jamal's feet left the metal, everything hung for one heartbeat. Then, another blackout. Not the whole dorm this time. Just their row. The lights over Jamal died again, leaving him in a thin red glow. It looked like the room had swallowed him and spit out a shadow. From the far corner came a sharp, cold sound. Not a shout. Not a hit. A lock, the gate that should have opened, didn't. Keys. Keys, someone yelled. But the keys were in the wrong place, and the door was in the right place, and the seconds were already running away. And the red glow, Jamal's body tilted, Rivera lunged, and the dorm, the officers, the reporter, the island itself, all waited to learn which way the night would break. Jamal didn't hit the floor. When the second blackout hit, everything froze again, the air, the light, the noise. Officer Rivera's hand stopped mid-reach, caught between reflex and fear. For a split second, the whole dorm looked like a photograph lit in red. Then a dull thud echoed from the far corner, followed by a sound that didn't belong. the drip of water from a broken sprinkler pipe, generators dead again, someone shouted. The radios spat static. The backup lights flickered, throwing long shadows over the bunks. When the power finally hummed back on, Rivera saw Jamal crouched on the mattress, arms over his head, shaking but alive. The old man, Carlos, stood beside the bed, one palm still raised as if holding the air steady. Rivera let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding, but peace never lasts long on Rikers Island. Within minutes, more officers flooded the dorm. Doors slammed. Voices barked orders. The emergency lights painted everyone in red and white, and for the next hour, the jail felt less like a building and more like a storm. Maya wrote it all down. Fear makes people loud. Relief makes them louder. By midnight, the lockdown stretched across the island. Every dorm sealed. Every hallway quiet except F. Or boots and radios. In the control room, officers watched a wall of flickering screens. The reports came in one after another, minor fights, power failures, missing equipment. Each incident small by itself, but together they told a story no one wanted to say out loud. Rikers was cracking. Rivera sat on a metal chair outside the dorm, head in his hands. He'd been on shift 16 hours. This place eats your nerves, he muttered. You come in calm, you leave shaking. And you still got to come back tomorrow. Why? Maya asked as he looked at her. Because if we don't show up, it falls apart faster. Morning came slow, gray light leaking through dirty windows. The storm had passed over the city, but the air inside still felt heavy. Inmates whispered across bunks, voices low. Jamal sat on the edge of his bed, staring at his shoes. His breathing was uneven, but his eyes were clearer now. Rivera stopped by his cell. You all right? Jamal nodded without looking up. Did I hurt anybody? No, Rivera said. You scared a few people, that's all. I thought the lights meant something, Jamal whispered. Like, it was starting. What was starting? Jamal shrugged. You feel the tension, right? It's like the island hums before it breaks. Rivera didn't answer. Because he did feel it, the hum. The slow vibration that came before trouble. Every veteran officer knew it. Rikers didn't explode all at once. It leaked chaos drop by drop until one day the floor gave way. Later that day, Maya sat in the staff cafeteria, interviewing a corrections nurse named Tanya. Her uniform was clean but her voice was tired. I've worked here 12 years, Tanya said. It's worse now. We don't just patch wounds, we patch fear. The men don't trust us. Half the time we don't trust each other. Why stay? Maya asked, because someone has to. If we all quit, what's left? She pointed toward the windows facing the East River. From there, you could see the Manhattan skyline, glittering like another world. That's how close freedom is, Tanya said softly. You can see it, smell it, but you'll never touch it while you're here. That's enough to make anybody lose their mind. That afternoon, Rivera's radio hissed again, Unit C, disturbance in the mess hall. He ran. Maya followed at a distance with her notepad still in her hand. When they arrived, the scene was chaos, trays scattered, water pooled on the floor, two officers trying to separate a fight. It wasn't about gangs or debts this time. It was about food. The kitchen had run out of bread halfway through lunch. A tall inmate shouted, You feed animals better than this. Another yelled, Nobody listens till we make them listen. The crowd pressed forward, voices rising, echoing off steel and tile. Rivera stepped in front of the line, arms wide. Back off. Everyone stepped back. His voice was strong but his eyes darted to the side. He was outnumbered 10-1. For a heartbeat, it looked like the crowd might listen. Then a tray flew across the room and hit the wall with a crack. Maya ducked. Rivera pulled his baton but didn't swing it. Back, he yelled again. The sound of boots thundered down the hallway as backup arrived. The crowd scattered toward the walls. A loudspeaker blared, All units, Level 2 response, mess hall lockdown. The fight ended as fast as it began. But the tension didn't fade. it just changed shape. Men muttered under their breath. Officers looked at each other like soldiers waiting for the next shot. Maya wrote, "Every time it ends, they act like it's over." It never is. That night, the island went quiet again, but it was the kind of quiet that comes before a storm, not after one. Jamal lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The generator hum vibrated. Oof the floor. Carlos whispered prayers in Spanish from the next bunk. Rivera sat in the control booth, flipping through shift logs. Every page told the same story: overcapacity, understaffed, too many medical calls, too few answers. He looked up at the monitors, grainy images of men pacing in their cells like caged animals. One of the cameras blinked, then went dark. He tapped the screen. Nothing. The label under the feed read C dorm, North Corridor. That was Jamal's dorm. Rivera leaned forward. "Control, check camera C dorm North," he said into his radio. Static. No response. He tried again. "Control, this is Rivera. I've got a blackout on C dorm." Still nothing. He grabbed his flashlight and key ring, pushing through the corridor. The sound of his boots echoed off the walls. When he reached the dorm door, he paused. Inside, the red emergency lights glowed again, faint and flickering. He keyed the lock. The door opened. The dorm looked empty. "Too empty, count," Rivera barked, his voice sharp. "Everyone sound off." Silence. Then, from the far end, a voice answered, low, shaking, "He's gone." Rivera turned his light toward the sound. Jamal's bunk was empty. The blanket lay folded, the pillow untouched. On the wall, written in something dark and wet, were two words: break point. Maya, who had followed at a distance, froze in the doorway. Her notebook slipped from her hand. Rivera whispered, "Check every hallway. Every vent. Every stairwell." The radios hissed back to life. Alarms blared. Doors slammed. For the second time in 2 days, Rikers Island went into lockdown, but this time, it wasn't just a system failure. This time, someone was missing, and outside, on the skyline, the lights of New York City flickered as if they knew what was coming next.